Coaching carousel has reached every conference in the Power Five, including much upheaval in the Pac-12. We check in at Arizona State with Josiah Destin. You can follow him and the rest of Arizona State football coverage on House of Sparky, the SB Nation platform for the Sun Devils. Josiah, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing incredible, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you so much for stopping by, because we've got not just a coaching transition, a coaching hire at Arizona State, but in many ways, this is the most unique coaching hire in big-time college football during this offseason. Herm Edwards, of a number of different types of fame, most notably recently in the ESPN studio, the guy who says we just you play to win the games. That Herm Edwards, who's also coached the Kansas City Chiefs and also the New York Jets at the NFL level, and is most associated with the NFL, comes back to college at the age of, I believe, 63. What were your impressions when you first that Herm Edwards was being pursued by Arizona State, and just your thoughts about the hire?
When I first heard about it, I thought it was funny. I laughed a little, wrote my article. ASU is pursuing Herm Edwards, and then enjoyed seeing the comments flow in. What is ASU doing? Who are they pursuing? This 63-year-old guy who hasn't coached in 9 years. I thought it was funny and cool at the same time. Hey, national guy, ESPN, maybe he'll be able to recruit. Unlike Todd Graham the past couple of years, and I mean, once it became more and more realistic, it kind of got bizarre, and the reasoning why people are just so skeptical of this decision is because it really seems like there was one interview, one candidate, and one guy who the athletic director really wanted, and that was Herm Edwards. They didn't go looking for Kevin Sumlin or anybody else, and that was the one guy.
Josiah, you mentioned Kevin Sumlin, and he was the guy that was most associated, based on news reports and just speculation of who would be a viable candidate, who would be a good fit, a good match, and Kevin Sumlin being maybe a disappointment in his last few seasons at Texas A&M, but certainly handling a top-flight football program and being a guy that maybe kids could relate to, who's done very well on the recruiting trail with A&M, was a guy that immediately came to the forefront of the coaching search, not necessarily the search, but the search for the rest of us who don't matter, who don't count, that we thought of Kevin Sumlin, and he was the guy that most people tabbed as being potentially on the top of that list, but it became Herm Edwards, and it's an unconventional selection. I think maybe the thing that needs to be explained is the connection between, is it the athletic director and Herm Edwards? They go back quite a ways, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so Herm Edwards, when he coached his 8 seasons in the NFL, his agent for all 8 of those years was Ray Anderson. His full title was the vice president for University of Athletics, or athletic director, at Arizona State, and they were great friends back then. And he actually had 2 agents, and another one of his agents also works at ASU. Don't remember his name. But yeah, he definitely had that ASU or that Sun Devil connection 9 years back when he was in the NFL. And really, a lot of people are looking at this like he just hired his buddy, and it's not a horrible hire because he knows football. He's coached in the NFL. He was looking at football for his 9 years with ESPN and didn't really leave the sport, but came as a surprise.
Josiah Destin joins us from House of Sparky, the SB Nation for Arizona State Athletics, and we're talking the Herm Edwards hire, of course, there at Arizona State. Edwards moves from the studio straight to Tempe, and he is probably even right now on the phone trying to draw in some recruits, and that would be something that I would think that he would be pretty well suited for, just based on his ability to talk and inspire and motivate people. The one connection, as you know, Josiah, that Herm Edwards has and has had recently to the high school and college game is being an honorary coach there at the Under Armour All-America game for the last several seasons, and he apparently makes quite an impression on the young athletes. So hopefully that transitions and he's able to bring some of those to Arizona State. But you can see, as you mentioned, the credentials are obvious. He was an NFL head coach for 2 teams. He played in the NFL. He knows the game. He also is a tremendous motivator, speaker, and inspires people. Okay, on the flip side, the obvious criticisms would be he's been away from the game for a long time. And even during that time that he was most recently in football, it was in the NFL, which is a much different situation than college, where you have to go on the recruiting trail, where you have to keep track of 105 student athletes and make sure you know their whereabouts, and you're running a clean program and have to deal with NCAA policies and so forth. So is there anything that's been stated, anything said that you've seen out of Herm Edwards just in the short period of time, whether it was his introductory news conference or anything else that has made you a little bit more comfortable with the hire?
Man, I mean, it was very confusing news conference. Definitely. The funniest part, I don't know if you saw, but when there's a site that we compete with in Tempe, Devil's Digest, and he said, "My name is this, and I'm from Devil's Digest." He goes, "Devil's Digest? I'm a Catholic," and it was very funny. He's like, "Well, you're gonna see a lot more devils living out here," and I mean, it was like he was almost just trying to. I know that just the way he is, but he was almost trying to overdo it and just have a good time and just kind of blow it off, because people are really looking at this as something that ASU needs to sell. I mean, Ray Anderson came out there, instead of saying, "What a great day to be a Sun Devil," or "What a momentous day for ASU athletics," he goes out there and he says, "So we are going to tell you today how and why Herm Edwards is going to be a great coach at Arizona State." And they went up there and explained, and they showed this whole CEO model, how there's going to be a new model, how Herm is going to be like the general manager. I don't know if there's anything he's done to make it a more comfortable hire. I do believe that he can have success at Arizona State. I don't think it's the greatest hire. I don't think it's the worst hire. But something that he did do was, when he did go back to ESPN, instead of recruiting, he went back to ESPN and kind of just promoted the brand a little bit, like put ASU on the map. Every segment he did, every show he came up on, he put up his little pitchfork and was like, "Yeah, I can't wait to, start recruiting and coaching," and definitely maybe some national recruits see that on ESPN and they're like, "Oh, maybe we'll give this guy a chance." The 2 things that haven't looked great recently, or 2 guys have decommitted, and the last guy was a 4-star offensive lineman. So I mean, that's something that ASU has really needed recently. But I mean, there isn't much he's done yet for people to really get on the train. But I mean, it should be interesting to see what he does. I think he'll make some splash commitments.
Yeah, the news conference was rather amusing. I did see the clip that you're alluding to, in which the Devil's Digest reporter identified himself, and then Herm Edwards went off from there, and it was kind of funny. It made you think either he's completely oblivious to the nickname of the team that he's coaching, and that he's going to be wearing a lot of clothing that has that name and that emblem on it, or he is really trying to just be a bit amusing and over the top, and just try to challenge that guy and see what happens. So if anything, we can guarantee that things will be interesting in Tempe with Herm Edwards on the sideline. I didn't know that they went to that kind of detail to explain his role as CEO. I know that had been put out there as he is a CEO, but I didn't know that they went to those kind of lengths to describe it.